Hey there, my name's Danny Leibrandt, and I'm the founder of Pest Control SEO, where we grow pest control companies with SEO. Today, I'm with Allan Draper, who, again, might be the most authoritative guy in the pest control space. We were just talking before this call. I am blown away by what he has done in the space, and I took a look at his LinkedIn profile and did as much research as I could. But I mean, you can't make some of these stats up. He owns 28 different companies, so 12 of them are under the Proof Pest Control brand, so might be different branches or might be door knocking crew, whatever. 12 different companies under Proof, which he's been running for over 10 years, and he is also the founder of Lizard SEM, which is a digital marketing agency for pest control, and again a bunch of other companies which we might have time to jump into, but those are the two main ones. Also, he runs the Bug Bux podcast and the Bug Bux Plus kind of coaching program and community. So, so glad to have Allan on. I think we're going to learn a lot from him. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, Allan.
Hey, thanks for having me, Danny. Looking forward to it.
Of course, man. Yeah, so tell me how you got into the pest control space initially. Because again, I looked at your LinkedIn. You did a bunch of different kind of side gigs. Maybe it was like you were a server. Maybe you were doing something else. When did you actually get into pest control?
Well, a lot of people don't know that my first pest control company failed. So I graduated with an undergraduate degree in psychology with a few minors, and my brother was knocking doors for a pest control company called Insight Pest Control back in Columbus, Ohio, at that point. And he was doing really well, and he called me up and he's like, hey man, like, we should do this, right? Like, I'm good at sales. You figure out the technician and admin side. And so I went out and I teched. I didn't even last the whole summer. Didn't get along with my boss. Lasted like, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks. And then we tried to start a company called Freedom Pest Control. And he and I couldn't get along. We didn't have enough money. We weren't mature enough. And so it just kind of crumbled, to be honest with you. We didn't even get it off the ground. He stuck with door-to-door sales and pest control. And I decided to go to law school. So went to law school, practiced law for a few years. And then he was exiting one of his companies. And I said, hey, man, maybe we should give it another shot. And that was 2014. And we did, and Proof was born. And, it's funny because the going joke in pest control is that nobody chooses to go into this industry. We all just fall into it, and everybody kind of has their unique path, and that's mine.
Yeah, no, same thing with me. I never thought I would be in the pest control space. And, again, people have kind of joked like, what, did you like dream of becoming the pest control marketing guy? I'm like, no, not really. But, that's where I landed. So yeah, same thing. That's awesome, man. And how did you come up with the name Proof?
What's funny is that I have some high school buddies that created this company where they made wood framed sunglasses, and they pitched on Shark Tank. Actually, I think they got a deal. I'm trying to remember if they took it or not. But their company was called Proof. And at that time we were trying to think of a name, and I think I was watching a rerun of their episode, or maybe it was just airing at that point. And so we kind of ripped it off. Now I took a bunch of trademark classes, and I'm like, will this be an issue? And it's like, no, because there's no the standard is whether there's a likelihood of confusion, like which Proof is this, the sunglass company or the bug killing company? So yeah, shout out to the Dame family. Those guys are awesome. And the reason why they have a really cool story, because their parents and now them built this amazing wood company. Like they make door frames and window frames, like this wood processing plants. Like I think they have a bunch of locations, and they kind of took that, the wood, like that part of their family business, and developed into sunglasses. So you guys should check those out. I don't know how well they did with the sunglass company, but the wood manufacturing company or whatever processing company, it's called Wood Grain, and those guys crush it. Hundreds of millions in annual revenue. So, but I thought the name was cool. It was short. It was sweet. It was simple. For us, it was about creating something where it's like, there's some weight to the name. And I don't know if there's a perfect name. There's some terrible ones for sure, but a lot of people don't understand what I'm saying. Like when I say Proof Pest Control, they think I'm saying poof, like Poof. And I'm like, nah, man, poof. But anyway, that's where it came from, and it just kind of stuck, and we love it.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, one of the reasons why I love it is just because it's unique, right? I think that's really what you should look for if you're looking to start a company, if you haven't even started one yet, is just be you as unique as possible. And I can tell you, I mean, I've looked at thousands and thousands of pest control companies, have not seen another Proof, whereas you see tons of advanced pest solutions, complete pest control. Like I've seen so many companies with the same name, like exactly the same. So I think just having that little bit of differentiator probably, set you guys apart and helped with growth.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's an element to that. I remember when I was little and we were, I don't know, what was I, 10 or something? And we were going to Disneyland, and I was explaining to my little sister, we started talking about why it's called Disneyland. And I'm like, it's just a dude's name. Like, it could be called Draperland. And she's like, no, it couldn't. That sounds dumb. It has to be Disneyland. And it's like, that's a brand, right? Like, you can have some really stupid names, but it's a lot more important what you do with it. Look what Disney did with his last name, right? And I don't know if it's the same if his last name is like, Worcestershire or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think that speaks to the brand. Like, what's the culture of your brand? What are you doing? What do people think about when they hear your name? That's so much more important. I early on when I was consulting pest control companies, they'd be like, I have all these names. And I'm like, all right, man, those are good. Let's, take 5-10 minutes, pick one, and then let's work on the business,
Yeah. So no, people love to get caught up in the business name and the branding, the logo. I think, I fell into it. Most of my friends have fallen into it where, the first 6 months of being an entrepreneur, you want to look for the perfect domain name and the perfect company name and the perfect logo and, all this stuff. And it's all kind of like what they call mental masturbation, where it's like, you're not actually doing anything. Build the business, and the brand name, it could be horrible, but if you have a great business, it's still going to work.
Yeah. Yeah. My buddy, he worked for his father's company in North Carolina, and it was called Killingsworth. And they took that name. It was somebody's last name that they bought the company for, and then they built it up, and then they had an exit. But they built an incredible brand with Killingsworth. Look at Rent-A-Kill.
I know. Not a great name.
I think that's a terrible name, especially now, with some of the woke movement or whatever you want to call it, where it's like they don't like kill and they don't like and so I didn't know this, but Rent-A-Kill they've received some backlash because of their name. And but they've still built a very large, incredible company. So, I think the brand is more important than the name, right? What are the color schemes? What what does it appear? What does it look like? And then the association to the brand, right? The goodwill that's attached to the brand, that's even more important than the brand. But, come up with a name that, you're going to spell it a lot. You're going to repeat yourself a lot. I've said Proof and answered that question, where did you get the name from? Thousands of times. So, I like short, simple, powerful, and I'm not really into cheesy names like, Kill 'em all pest control or whatever. But those work for some companies. Yeah, again, it's more important what you do with it.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's a great point. I think you summarized that great. So I want to learn about kind of the initial years of Proof. What did that look like? Were things hard, or did you kind of, hit it off the bat right away? Basically tell me about the first few years of Proof.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody that's listening that started a company, they kind of know, right? Our path was different, but the story kind of sounds familiar. It's like days where you don't know if you're going to make it. So I moved from Phoenix, where I was practicing law, quit my job, moved to Detroit, Michigan, where we started our first branch. I swear I don't think we make it if we opened the branch here in Phoenix. There were days that I quit. Like, wasn't getting along with my brother, having issues, and I'm like, I'm done. And it didn't last very long, few hours, maybe till the next morning. But, you know, I think that's every business. If you've started a business and you haven't considered quitting, there's something wrong. Either there's something wrong with you, or there's you're not pushing yourself. I don't know. It's weird to me, the people that like coast through the startup phase. Startup is supposed to be hard. It's just like learning anything else. My kids they just started tackle football for the first year. They're learning how to hit, wrap up, and all those things. And they look awkward, and it's been a week or so now, 5 or 6 practices, and they're already getting better at it. That's like business. You know, business is just like times 10. And so, yeah, those early days were tough. We scaled Proof pretty quickly. You know, I think our first year, which was a truncated year, we started in March. Our first revenue was like March 15th, March 16th, something like that. And I think we did $600,000 in revenue that first year.
What?
So now we were doing door to door. We were doing a mix of marketing. We were using Angie's List and Thumbtack, and learned that those weren't working very well for us. We did some pay-per-click, but we did a lot of door to door. So, we scaled pretty quickly. There's companies that scale quicker. There's companies that scale not as quick. And so, but the faster you scale, the more difficult it is. So it's like, pick your poison, right? Do you want to deal with that? Like, we saved up for a long period of time so that we didn't have to take money out of the company so that we could pay our marketing expenses. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. So, but those early days were great. I love startups and those early days because that is where the growth occurs. As soon as you're starting to feel comfortable and things are going smoothly, the reason why they're going smoothly is because you're not changing and not growing. So it's just whatever you decide.
Okay, well, it sounds like you didn't have it too rough. If you did 600K in the first year, and that's not even the first few months, that is insane, dude. So
go find somebody else
that.
that did 600,000 in their first year of revenue and ask them if it was difficult. It was way more difficult than doing 50,000. I'll take anybody on with that. Look at the people I had to hire, and I had an alcoholic that was my first technician, and he never showed up for work. And if I'm doing my own thing and I'm out there doing the services, I guess it's like hard for me, might be different from somebody else. But it's like, if you're out running the route, yeah, it sucks. You're getting dirty in crawl spaces. Some people like that. But dude, managing people, I don't know. And that fast a growth from zero to 600 G's in 9 months. And that's collected revenue. That's not contract value. Contract value, we're over $1 million. 0 to 600,000 is like, I think it's easier to go from 5 to 10 million.
Wow.
And I've done it. Than it is from 0 to 600,000. I might be stretching, but it's that type of, because when you're at 5 million, dude, you have a bunch of techs, you have a bunch of systems, you've figured out a bunch already. You have a lot of support. When you're at 0, you have 0. You have nothing. So anyway, my take on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. And I certainly didn't mean to demean your experience at all. I'm sure you were working restlessly, and I'm sure it totally sucked. But still, you did it, is what I'm saying, basically, is that it's still possible if someone potentially wanted to do that. So, I mean, if someone wanted to do, 500K plus in their first year, what does it take? Were you working like 18-hour days? What were you doing?
There were some long days. And what's funny is this is a decade ago, and I was making some choices I didn't need to make in terms of sacrifice. I had a 2-year-old and 4-month-old boys, and there were days I didn't see them. I talk about this a lot. I just wrote a book about it, actually. And the book, it's in the editing process right now, release Q1 2025. But the idea is that this book it lays out 13 different sacrifices that are required to build a successful business. But it's what's actually required. The idea is sacrifice so that you can build your business without sacrificing what matters most. Because sometimes I did that. But yeah, there were long days. I think the stress was the biggest shocker, right? I think the working, I worked for one of the largest law firms in the world. Like I had to bill over 2,000 hours a year.
Wow.
So yeah, the work, it was a lot of work, but I loved it. It wasn't that. It's like, and I had to pull myself away from it. It was the stress. It was the unknown. It's every single thing that happened, I thought it was the end. Dude, we had the wrong phone number printed on our flyers, and we spent like, I don't know, $2,000 on the flyers.
No.
Which now is not a big deal, but back then I'm like, all right, pack it up. It was a good try. And then we just got creative. We're like, we still need these flyers. We can't pay for new ones. So we bought one of those big paper cutters, and we sliced off the bottom, and we bought a rubber stamp with our actual phone number and stamped it on there. That didn't look very pretty, but it worked. And so it was all those little things of just figuring things out. And, I couldn't wait to get out of the startup phase until I did. And then what did I do? I started another company, and then another company, and another company, and another company, because it's just like when your kids are little, right? And you may not know this, but there's some tough nights. And you're like, man, when they're older and I can play catch with them and stuff, it'll be so much better. And there's some cool things about kids growing up and getting older. But dude, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, man, I remember when they were little and cute. And like, so it's always about what's the phase you're in, and are you appreciating it enough to enjoy what you're meant to enjoy from it and learn what you're meant to learn from it? We're always, dude, the thing about human beings, we're in this, like, we're on this path to find happiness. And one of our goals is more. Whatever it is, it's more. And then we get more, and then what do we want? We want more of it. And it's this trick that our caveman brain plays on us. Because back when we were in caves, it's like we needed more food because we didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. But it's just not that way anymore. And so, like, I'm on this other kick, like, more's not always better. Sometimes more is worse. So anyway, it's those early days. It's when the kids are young, when the company's young. You know, the cool things happen early on. I have some companies doing incredible things, and I like talking about the early days. Just, I don't know, maybe that's me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, kind of a consensus of that, at least from my perspective, is that you just have to be grateful for every single moment, every single day.
Yeah.
Like there are ups and downs throughout the whole journey, especially as an entrepreneur. There's so many ups, so many downs. But I think it's important to even find kind of solace and happiness in that super low point where you totally screwed up the flyer and you're just like, look, man, 10 years, like we're going to be okay. And I'm going to look back at this moment right now and think, this is what it took to be great. So, I mean, that's especially what I'm learning in my journey of, being an entrepreneur the past few years is just like things suck so bad sometimes, but just still figuring out a way to be grateful and knowing that as long as I keep going, it's going to be okay, right?
Yep. 100%.
Definitely. So let's see. So you were running Proof for about 5 years, and I think you said you kind of stepped out of the day-to-day. Tell me about how that went down.
So I ran, 5-6 years, and then there was this transition phase where I hired like a COO type and I retained the CEO title, where I was involved in a lot of the decisions. But then as time went on, I was involved in fewer and fewer decisions. Now, keep in mind that by that point, Proof was doing, 5-6 million in revenue, maybe a little less, somewhere in there. So It wasn't like I was out doing services. People need to know that. People need to know that I didn't go from, technician outfit in the truck, servicing homes, to hiring somebody to run the company. There was this gradual change, this evolution, right? And I think the evolution is natural when you're growing a company. You can't grow a company in a truck. I have people call me and they're like, "Hey, Allan, I'm trying to scale my pest control company. What do I need to do?" That's such a loaded question. It's like, well, what does scale mean? What are you doing right now? What are your resources? All these things. But a lot of times, my first question is, "Hey, John, what did you drive to work today?" It's like, "What do you mean? What did I drive?" I'm like, "What did you drive to work?" They're like, "Oh, I drove a pest control truck." "Is your name on the side?" "Yeah, my name's on the side." I'm like, "Okay, first thing you need to do is get out of the truck." It's like, "Well, no, I don't do very many services. Like it's only if I upset customer." I'm like, "Did you call me to like argue with me or because if you want to scale your company, get out of your truck?" And he's like, "Well, it's like, dude, make excuses or you can't build a pest control company in a truck. A lot of people think they can, they can't." And the reason why I know this is because I used to be in a truck and I was taking customer service calls and I was calling our marketing team and all these things. And it's like, dude, it's so difficult. Now you can scale it to a point, but when people call me, they're frustrated, right? It's like, "Hey, I'm trying to solve a problem." So this evolution for me, it happened that entire time. I was Proof's first technician. I was our first HR person. I was our first, buyer, our first accountant, all those things. And as we grew, I would hire strategically. And I would always think, what's the next move for me? What is the thing that I need to be doing? When you're scaling a company, there's this evolution in the owner's duties. Number one, you first do what you have to do. For me, it was HR, customer service, sales, working with vendors, all these things. I did what I had to do. The next step that you're trying to get to is you want to do what you're good at. You want to free your time so that you're focusing on the things that you're good at with your company. I was good at building teams. I was good at hiring people. I was good at managing money. Then you do what you want to do. So first you do what you have to do. Then you do what you're good at. Then you do what you want to do. Some people want to be in a crawl space. Some people never want to go in the office again. They want to review financials monthly. So there's that evolution. And a lot of people, they try to skip from, okay, day one, I'm doing what I have to do. And day two, I'm doing what I want. It's like, good luck with that company. I'm not investing in it.
Yeah. No, that was awesome advice. I think most pest control company owners need to hear that of like, dude, get out of the truck. All these guys that I'm talking to, they're like, "Oh, I'm in the truck right now. Sorry, I'm busy, whatever." Dude, get out of the truck, start hiring up. And what I kind of wanted to lead into the next question is get out of the truck, but then do what? What should they be doing with all their time?
Depends on their goals. Lawyers always say it depends, right? That's how we make money, I guess. There's always gray area.
Yeah.
But if they're trying to scale their company, they're probably going to focus on marketing, sales, but they need to look at the bottleneck in the company. So, and it depends on where they're at, like what size of company they have. But when you get out of the truck, then you start finding those bottlenecks. Like, hey, do I have the capacity to, like the technical capacity to handle more customers? The answer is no. It's like, okay, I got to hire a technician. A lot of people have a hard time with this because they're like, well, I don't have the customers yet. So why would I hire the technician?
Yeah.
Customers aren't going to come until you have the technician, because what will happen is you will put a lot of money into marketing and sales and you'll have nowhere to put those spots. I'm trying to remember her name from Shark Tank. She was the New York real estate mogul, Barbara.
Yeah.
She talked about how when she was scaling her company, her brokerage, she would always have extra office space with empty desks in them for hiring agents. Because if she had that availability, she would just naturally be able to fill those. So a lot of times when you're scaling a company, you're like, I need customers first. It's like, put some pressure on yourself, invest in some marketing and invest in some personnel. And I understand the question, Danny. Like, a lot of times people they don't know if they have enough money for an employee, another technician, whatever. And I get that. And it's like, we can go through that. We can go through the numbers. but you make them earn their own way, right? You make it so that, and there's going to be a 2-week, 4-week, 6-week gap where you're going to have to cover their salary, but then it will eventually catch up. So they get out of the truck, so they have to hire a technician to get out of the truck, first of all. But then they work on scaling their business and plugging holes in a boat, right? It's like you're out on a lake and a hole, there's a hole that pops up and you plug it and then you notice another one, right? It's like you can imagine like a Disney, like a Goofy cartoon or something. That's scaling a business. So it's like, okay, marketing, I'm going to focus on marketing. I'm going to solve marketing. Okay, now sales. Our close rate's 20%. Now we got to focus on sales, and then it just goes to whatever, and you just keep going around and around and eliminating those bottlenecks.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so focusing on the bottlenecks then, I actually love that. I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozi. You probably know him and watched him.
Yep.
But one of the things he says is just scale until something breaks. So stop worrying about all these little small things. Like, let's just scale, hammer volume, and if something breaks, like we don't have enough technicians, then fix it, then hire a technician. But I feel like most company owners, again, specifically in pest control, are kind of just worried about taking the next step. Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's hiring. I think that's one of the big problems in the space.
I like that advice, and I've heard him say that before. For certain personality types, there are a lot of people in our space. They're 55, 60, 65 years old, out running around. They have a good life, man. They have a good life. They have the life that they want. So if you're talking to somebody and they're like, hey, I want to scale my company and I want to scale it quickly and I want to do some really big things. Okay, build until something breaks. That's great advice. That's basically what I was saying about the boat, right? You plug a hole until another one pops up. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's actually funny. I just had Lenny Gray on a podcast, and he said the same thing.
Lenny's
basically,
awesome.
we kept going back to the same point. Yeah, no, Lenny's awesome. We kept going back to the same point where it's like, dude, what do you want? Because if you just want to have like $100K a year pest control company, then let's just do that. But it's the same way with me as a pest control marketing agency. If someone's at $100K a month or, $100K a year, whatever it is, and they're cool, they don't want to grow. Like I had a conversation with a guy maybe a week ago, and he's like, dude, honestly, I'm good. Like business is good. I mean, maybe, I don't know, you could step in, but there's just really no need. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like I love to hear that. I just want to make sure that, I'm providing all the value that I can. But, if you don't want any more leads, then what am I doing trying to pitch you?
Yeah. I mean, and I understand that, but people are going to lose 10, 15, 20% every year. Just people moving, dying, losing jobs, stuff like that. So business is, it's one of those things where you have to do something in order to maintain. It's like your health. Dude, I'm in good health, man. I'm cool with the gym. I'm cool. It's like, no, dude, that's not the way it works. There's this concept in physics and chemistry called entropy. And the idea is that over time, chaos happens. Things get disorganized, and you have to be proactive about like cleaning your room, right? Cleaning your house. It's just the way it goes. It gets dusty, dishes, whatever. And so it's that same way with your business. So, and I wanted to make that message clear. Like, so those people that are quote unquote coasting, you can't completely take your foot off the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Otherwise you get smaller and smaller, just like a car will start to slow down. Like if you take your foot off the gas pedal and maybe there's a hill or something, but eventually you're going to wake up and you're like, dude, what happened? I was doing 200 a year in revenue and now I'm doing 180. So, so you can not scale crazily, but it still required effort. So I'm calling that guy back if I'm you. And I'm like, dude, just so you know, you're going to have attrition. And sometimes you just want to fire customers, man. Some customers are a pain in the butt. We try not to lose a lot of them, but when they disrespect my people, they're yelling, they're saying stuff about people's moms. I've heard some crazy stuff, dude. It's like, I will fire them so quick. I don't want their money. So that stuff happens. You still got some work to do to maintain.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's the whole philosophy of like, if you're not growing, you're dying, right? You have to continue growth. Yeah, no, with that, it was kind of an interesting scenario. And yeah, he was saying that they were hitting like a steady, like 10% growth every year. But yeah, no, I'll
Nice.
still reach back out to him and just be like, hey, basically you shouldn't have all of your eggs in one basket. If it's, you're only getting leads from Facebook or Google Ads, whatever it is, a platform could go down. Maybe it costs way more. But there are infinite many things that can happen. So yeah, could you talk about that, of kind of diversifying your marketing portfolio as it pertains to pest control?
Yeah, you got to do it. Now you can. So Jim Collins wrote a book, Good to Great. It's one of my favorites. It's actually it's that red one behind me, for the people watching. But in there, he talks about this concept of when you're starting a new initiative within your company, you need to fire bullets first to hone in on your target, and then cannonballs. So with marketing, depending on your geo, your price point, your branding, your goals, all those things, you're going to want to fire bullets like, hey, let's put some money toward this. And with digital marketing, I think people underestimate how much it costs, especially to get a nice program up and running. You got to figure some things out. Like people think, think of the old, you're too young, but they used to pay to advertise in phone books.
Yeah.
With yellow pages. The businesses, their white pages were like people's phone numbers. They used to be listed. It's crazy. And then the yellow pages were like the businesses. And people used to pay just to have their number listed or a little ad in there. And it's like, dude, that's so archaic if you think of not just how marketing is evolved, but how precise our marketing is now. Like somebody goes on Google and they type pest control near me. It's like, dude, that is incredible. And we still complain about it, like, I don't know. I've noticed that before. So you want to hone in on your target, and then you want to launch cannonballs, but not cannonball. Not cannonball, right? You're going to have a couple of huge marketing efforts. We do a lot of door-to-door. We do a lot of AdWords. We do a lot of acquisition. Rent-to-Kill, for example, they don't advertise. It's kind of live by the sword, die by the sword. They only acquire companies. So now at their scale, it's kind of a little different. But no, I would definitely recommend having a couple of different options, especially if some of those options are susceptible to market conditions. Look what COVID did with digital marketing. Look at how much leads cost now. So you have to have some other things out there just in case something changes. An algorithm changes on social media. Social media, you used to get traction with organic posts. Those days are gone. So you just, it's a good idea to kind of have that safety net while focusing those cannonballs on a few areas.
Okay, cool. So for a pest control company, let's say they're trying to get to $1 million a year, because I feel like that's like the first goal most people have. So, maybe they're at $200K a year, maybe $500K a year. What channels should they be focusing and honing in on to hit that $1 million a year?
It depends on their strengths. To get to $1 million, they're going to have to be really proactive about their marketing. Keep in mind that I can only talk about what I've seen, and I own a digital marketing agency. So the AdWords is going to be a part of that. I know some people do well with social media. I question that for my company and our geos. I think to get to $1 million, it's a great time. You get north of 500,000-600,000. It's a great time to start referral programs. You need to be cross marketing and upselling your customers on other programs, whether it's termite renewals or mosquito and tick services. I think you need to be doing a lot of, like I said, word of mouth stuff with referrals, but also community stuff. You maybe look into a small acquisition here or there. But $1 million, I think you can do with more of the traditional types of marketing, digital marketing, pay-per-click, keeping your customers, upselling, do some retargeting when they cancel. win back programs through email, those types of things.
Okay, cool. Yeah, tell me more about getting referrals. I feel like a lot of companies are struggling on this. How can companies build a good referral program?
I mean, it's something that doesn't happen overnight, but you you start asking for them. That's a really good way. One thing that I've noticed that surprised me is that a customer that was referred to us by another customer will stay longer with us than the customer that referred them.
Really?
So now they're both great customers. But if you get a referral from another customer, price does not matter. And you should be closing 99% of those.
Yeah.
So that means there's a lot of room. And when somebody refers another potential customer, they also stay longer than customers that don't refer, right? Because of cognitive dissonance. We don't want to be inconsistent with who we think we are. And it's like, hey, I just referred somebody. Now I'm quitting, right? So it's referrals are huge, but I think you start with incentives, but you need to be consistent with it, where you don't overwhelm people, but you're asking for referrals. You're talking a lot about it, and this is the very beginning phase of starting a referral program. I don't know that Proof has a really robust program. There are companies out there. I have a buddy that owns a company across the southern United States, 20,000 customers a year through referral. 20,000.
Just through referrals?
Just referral. Now, he's spent the last 15 years developing it, longer than Proof has been in business. But he has a very sophisticated program. Doesn't talk to me a lot about it, but I know that he does 20+ thousand in new customers a year from it. Now, the other thing is you gotta be a referable type company.
Yeah.
Don't be doing crap service, charging people when you're not doing a good job, arguing with them on the phone, not doing reservices when they call, and then ask them to refer your company. Don't do that. Got to baby step it. Ask them for a 5-star review. Ask them, to rate your company, whatever, and then get into referrals. But be a company that is referable and develop your program. And again, it's like being out on a boat with a hole in it. You do a little here, then you're like, oh, we need to fix our scheduling because, someone calls for a reservice and we're scheduling out a week. It's like, dude, that's not a referable company. So anyway, do that, continue to talk about it, continue to evolve. And I think there's a lot of options there.
Okay, cool. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, tell me about some of these other companies that you've started. So it seems like Lizard SEM is one of the main ones, but you have so many of these other companies. Did you just get bored and, were those hard to start? Or were they easier now that you've already built a successful company? Tell me more about the other companies that you have.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about how I really like the startup phase because that's where the growth occurs. That's where you're questioning whether it's going to last. I have had more failures after Proof than I did before Proof. And a lot of that's because I'm moving a little faster now than I was before. But I did have Freedom Pest Control, which failed before Proof, so one. But I've had multiple companies fail since Proof. So I don't think it's easier. It's interesting because I don't know that the safety net helps. I think maybe it does, but scaling them is easier. Understanding like what it takes, and so I own a bunch of companies. I own a credit monitoring company. I own a law firm. I own a product company that pitched to Shark Tank. We have 3 or 4 patents.
Wow.
It's an epoxy type product that we paint around the stem wall of a house, and scorpions and insects can't climb it. So if it was developed for scorpions because they bark scorpions nest in the dirt, and in order to get into your house, because they don't fly, they have to crawl. And so we painted this epoxy around houses. And anyway, it's a really cool product. there's this learning curve. So when you have something new, it's like, yeah, that's awesome. No one can infringe on your patent or you can sue them. The problem is now you have to educate people about it. Like if I tell people, hey, I'm a bug guy, I kill bugs, that's pretty simple. Like they understand that. But to understand like, hey, why do I need this? And is it going to work? And what do I have to do to maintain it? And how much does it cost? There's a lot of education. So, you know, I've had quite a few startups own Bug Bux, which is a pest control community. Yeah. And everybody that's listening, you need to go join our Facebook group. We have different groups. We have one for owners. We have one for technicians, office staff, all those things. Just search it on Facebook. You'll find it, BUG-BUX. We're just developing this community to help pest controllers. A lot like what you're doing, man. It's like a few years ago, I realized that it's not a zero-sum game. It's not I win, you lose. Yeah. And that's what Bug Bux is all about. Like, hey, how do we help other pest control companies replicate some of the things that we've done and found to be successful? So, but going back to my startups, like, you know, I have a software company that failed. I, you know, have investments that have failed, and it's just part of it. You know, some of those bullets we were talking about earlier aren't going to land.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So it's good to know that's like at least not all glory. Because I mean, almost looking at it from an outside perspective, I mean, it almost feels like you're a genius and you just like, boom, 600K in the first year, and boom, this company worked, and boom, this, and that. But it's good to hear that you're still like a human and that there are things going wrong, right? That's
the Instagram effect, bro. It's like,
yeah.
We only post if you follow my Instagram, I talk a lot about my failures and my mistakes. My book is, you know, it's about sacrifice, but it's about the things that I learned that I did wrong. So businesses fail, man. Not all businesses are meant to last forever. Like some people are better at running your company than you are. Not you, Danny. Like generally. And I'm people have a really hard time with that. I realize like, hey, I'm a visionary, man. I'm not an operator. Like I have a guy that runs Proof. Dude just talks circles around me. He ran a market for rent-to-kill, did like 200 million in revenue in his market. It's like that dude just knows stuff I don't know. Yeah. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. It's like, no, it's my company. I started it. It's my baby. It's my kid. It's like, okay, you say whatever you want, but there are people that are better able to run your company. Now, I'm not trying to, you know, force my ideals or my vision for my company on other people. Some people are like, no, dude, I love the nuts and bolts. I love learning. I love growing. I know there's somebody that could run it better, but just don't want to do it. That's fine. But that's another part of scaling your company is you have to replace yourself, and you have to replace yourself with people that are better than you, and you have to be okay with that, and you have to celebrate them, and you have to give them the credit. Don't get out of their way and then get back in it. A lot of people do that, man, in our industry. They hire a manager and they won't let them do their job. If you hire somebody and you are doing their job, one of you two is unnecessary. It's just not a way to scale a company. So, you know, that's one of my skill sets is like I find really talented people. Dude, I don't know that much about digital marketing. I found one of the best pest control digital marketers, I think, in the world. Wow. My buddy that grew up in the pest control industry. It's a different skill set than I have, and I'm okay with that.
Definitely. Yeah, kind of to add to your point there, I think what gets people, like entrepreneurs, to start companies is kind of like this pride and ego that we have. They're like, oh, you know, I was working at Orkin, you know I can do a better job than those guys, or, you know, I'm better than everyone else, so I can start this company. But it seems like the pride and ego actually get in the way of growing and scaling it, where, you know, your ego might get you only so far, but like you kind of have to come to terms with the fact that like, hey, there's someone that's way better at marketing than me. Like I just need to bring them on and we're going to grow like 3 times faster. So, I mean, was that ever a problem for you, or were you hiring people kind of right away and just acknowledging that, you know, you don't know everything?
One of the benefits that I had of coming outside the industry, was that, so I was wearing a white shirt and tie and a suit to court one day, and I was spraying bugs the next. So it gave me a different perspective of, hey, I'm not really great at this. I don't hate it, but I don't necessarily love it. And so I'm going to find somebody to do that. And then I did the HR or the accounting. And I'm like, same feeling. Like, I'm a lawyer. Like, I'm not the best at this. I don't particularly like it. But I'm going to learn enough so that I can manage it. And then I'd hire and replace myself. And then I did it again and again and again and again and again. Probably, I don't know, we have hundreds of employees, so quite a few times over. One of the sacrifices that an entrepreneur has to make is the sacrifice of being vulnerable. That's the bad part, is that your life comes under a microscope. Your customers, your family, your employees, they see you, man. They see you as a business owner making mistakes and doing the wrong things with your money and getting upset and losing good people and all these things. Now, the good thing is that you get to you have that opportunity to turn those weaknesses into strengths. Dude, one time I had this borderline disaster happen. I can't even remember what it was, but I was so mad because nobody told me about it till like 2 weeks later. And I go to the customer service manager, customer relation manager, and I said, hey, why didn't anybody tell me about this? And she's like, no, we handled it. It wasn't that big of a deal. I'm like, it was a huge deal. Like, I need to know about these things. She's like, no, not a big deal. But I kept pushing over and over. I'm like, no, Mariah, I need you to tell me. Why did you not tell me about this? And she's like, fine, Allan. Dude, you're not approachable. Like, you are very difficult to talk to when things go wrong. You say that you have an open door policy, but you don't. You yell at us or whatever. I don't know if she said that, but you don't listen to our ideas. And I was like, dang, okay. Went back to my office, kind of shut the door, and I'm like, dude, this entire time I thought I was this great manager, really approachable. And so, dude, I'm like, you know what? I got to get better at this. When people tell me something, I need to listen to them, and I need to give them the opportunity to feel for themselves if I think that, they're not choosing the right thing. They're not going down the right path. And so I changed. At least I got better. I don't know if I'm perfect at it, but It gave me an opportunity where I realized, hey, like, I wasn't doing the best job that I could. I lacked something, and I listened to my people long enough, and I took it to heart. And it's to this day. That was 6-7 years ago, 8 years ago, and I'm still trying to get better at that. And so we have this unique opportunity where our life comes under a microscope, and we have customers. Bro, my companies have tens of thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many. Every one of those is an opportunity. And what do we love? The 5-star. Oh, it was great. Blah, 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 blah. And Proof's highly rated, between 4.7 and 5 stars for all of my branches. But it's those 1 stars. And it's not the one where they're pissed, where they're like, yeah, it was too much money. This guy sucks. You're going to get those every once in a while. It's the ones that you hear over and over and over. Tech wasn't at my house long enough. Tech wasn't at my house long enough. Tech wasn't at my house long enough. It's like, dude, it's a gift. Take it.
I love that. Wow, that was so good. I love these kind of tangents that you go on. Yeah, well, no, it's great. It's great. You're great to listen to. Yeah, one of the things, going off of what you were saying, for me, kind of something I've been relaying in my head the past few weeks or so is just humble yourself. Stop being ignorant. Like, stop thinking you're better than everyone. Stop thinking that you have all the answers and all the solutions, and stop being ignorant. Be open to advice. I feel like I really struggle with that because, I have a great baseline of intelligence, but that can, again, only take you so far. Whereas, why not take advice from someone who's been in the game for 10, 20, 30 years? And, they're just like, oh, just do this. And you're like, oh, well, now I don't have to go through the next 5-10 years of pain. So in terms for you of your growth and not being ignorant, what have been some of the biggest learning factors besides your experience? So has there, besides good to great, have there been any key books or courses or content that you've consumed?
Yeah, I read a lot. So I've always got something, going on. So I'm thinking and growing. I get asked my book recommendations quite a bit, and I have a website, allandraper.com. And I think it's on the Meet Allan page, but you scroll down the bottom, and I have different books for management, building a company, financial wealth, different categories. So people ask me so much. I'm like, I'm going to just put it on my website. And I don't make any money from people buying these books. It's just what has helped me. So that's been a big part of it. My partners, we haven't talked about my partners yet. I think we have a little. Partnerships are so hard, man. It's like a marriage. It's like you got to work on it every day, but there's so much value there. One of my core values is to take someone with you, whether that's a partner or employees or whatever, but you want people to join you on that journey. So I've learned a lot from my partners. They just have skill sets I don't have. I look at some of the things they do and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like how do I deserve you? Right. Like now, not all my partners have succeeded either. I think I have 6, 7, 8 that I'm no longer partners with. Business has failed, whatever. But in that process, I've learned how to become a better partner myself, because a lot of the time it was me coming up short, things that I did wrong. But I've learned so much from my partners. I've hired really well. I have employees that I just hired a CFO, 2 months ago. He has an MBA. He's a CPA. He was super high up at a major airline. It's like, dude, I learned so much from these guys. Like, it's funny because I'll go into board meetings and I own the company, right? But these guys are talking, they have to talk down to me, but they don't do it like, to make me feel dumb. They just, they're trying to help me understand stuff that they understand at such a basic level. And I love that, man. Like, and sometimes I tell them, I'm like, hey, Lee, dude, talk to me like I'm 6, bro. I don't understand what you're saying. And so just surrounding myself with those types of people. And then the last thing I'll leave on with this is our community, the pest control community, is incredible. There are so many resources. Dude, I have friends that are my competitors that would do anything for me. I've called on my competitors when I've ran into problems. I've called on my competitors to hire an employee that wasn't the right fit for us, but might be the right fit somewhere else. So I want people to get more involved in the community, in just the pest control community. The people that do the best are the ones that give the most. I love the saying that the quickest way to get what you want is to help the most people get what they want.
Yeah.
And our industry is full of that. So, I mean, look at, dude, you and I are sitting here talking. We've been talking for about an hour. We both own pest control digital marketing agencies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, I don't look at it as a zero-sum game.
No.
Like, and if you end up with a client that we don't end up with, dude, best of luck. I hope you do well for them. It's like, that's just my approach. So, community has been really helpful. Guy, you mentioned Lenny Gray. That guy has been a great role model, mentor for me over the years. Legend Lenny. You mentioned Eric Bassett was on the show. He's one of my business partners, but somebody I look up to. It's just like, there's just a lot of good people out there. You got to go find them.
Definitely. Yeah, basically what I'm getting is that you can't do it all yourself, right? Like, I think you can build a good company, just like one A player, which is yourself. But to build a great big company, you have to have a ton of A players in each space. So, I mean, one of the last questions I want to ask you is, and like you said, you're great at hiring and you have great partners. How do you know someone is a great employee or a great partner? What do you look for?
Very, very, very difficult. And I'm good at recruiting really good people, but I've recruited and hired some really bad people, some of the worst people. So first of all, I try hard. I do it a lot, but I'm slow with it, right? Slow to hire, quick to fire. I try to focus on what their goals are and trying to see if there's going to be a match. A lot of people, if there's a really good person, they'll hire them for their benefit, but not for that individual's. And it's like, that's great. And I used to be like that. But if you don't think it's win-win, it's just not going to work. They may last a year. Then they create a hole. So I try to lead with, I'm a very untraditional hirer, I guess. And I'm not involved in most levels of hiring anymore. It's C-level type hires. But I want to understand somebody's 5-10 year plan. If I'm hiring for especially a C-level position, I want to know, like, hey, what do you get out of this? And how do I help you? That's how the conversation starts. It's like, wait, what can I do for you? And if they can't convince me that there's something that I can do for them or that my company can do for them, it's not a good fit. It's just not going to work. So I think just having that longer term perspective, making sure that the visions match up. Like, hey, we're growing a company. Like, we're really excited about this type of marketing. We're excited about our nonprofit that we're doing. Tell me what aspects of those things interest you. And I've heard all sorts of answers. But you can tell when people are faking it. So I try to focus more on those things, less on experience. Experience matters, but if they quit in 3 months, how much did their experience matter?
Yeah.
So just focusing on, like, hey, is this the right fit? And then once they're hired, you double down on them. Now they're part of the family. Now they're in your corner. It's been said that the person that's sitting in front of you during an interview will never be on better behavior than they are right there. Right? The truth is, it goes the other direction too. It's like, hey, who's interviewing me? They're talking about how awesome their company is and why it's like, then you have to live up to it just as much as they do. To get loyalty from partners and from employees, you first give loyalty.
That's so good. Give
if
before
you
you get.
do that, you'll hire and retain the best people, and then you'll also hire decent people, and they will become the best people.
Awesome. Such great lessons from you, man. I knew this was going to be a great podcast, but honestly, it went even better than I thought. Last question that I have for you is, in the past few years or so, now you're kind of out of the day-to-day with all the companies. You're running, 28, sorry, not running, but you own 28 different companies. What has been one of the biggest lessons you've learned the past few years?
Oh, man. There are three things I could talk about. I'm going to talk about one, and that is that risk is a lot less scary than regret. And that's not just, in terms of money and going for it. It's also in terms of relationships. Like, there's this human element to this path that we're on as entrepreneurs. And dude, I have regrets, man. One of my best friends was my business partner. We built an incredible company, and I bought him out. He threatened a lawsuit. I never talked to him anymore. And it's like, dude, I could have done it a little differently. So but kind of in the context of risk, the thing that I learned is that when you have an idea or you want to go after something, you're never going to go back to neutral. And you need to hear me out on this. If I'm sitting on the couch and my kids are playing across the street at the park, playing baseball, and I have the thought, hey, maybe I should go play catch with them. And then I think, you know what? It's kind of dangerous crossing the street. I might get hit by a car. Now I'll just sit right here. I am not able to go back to neutral where I was before I had that thought. And the same applies of anything, getting an education, getting married, having kids, building a business, taking a financial risk, whatever. Once you have that idea, you now have two things on the table. It's not risk or nothing. It's risk or regret, or risk or loss opportunity cost. We call that a lot, right? As soon as that idea comes to our mind, there's an immediate loss opportunity cost attached to it. So it's like, yeah, dude, I might not cross the street. If I don't, I definitely won't get hit by a car. But I also won't have that opportunity to spend time with my kids or start a business or build a relationship or have kids. So that's kind of one of my core values, is that risk is less scary than regret.
That is so good. I've actually never heard it been put that way, but that is just great. And yeah, basically that, you have risk. Maybe there's, some big thing that you want to do, and maybe you have to sacrifice something, but then you have regret. And that's actually a risk in of itself to, then not go take the thing. So, I mean, you have risk on either side, and it's just, which one do you want to pick? Which one do you want to take?
Exactly right.
100%, man. Well, it's so great to have you on the podcast. Again, learned a ton. Really one of my favorite podcasts here, honestly. So thank you so much for coming on, Allan. And yeah, where can people find you on social media, learn more about you and your businesses?
Yeah, go to my website, allandraper.com. If you have some questions or you have a start, whatever, I have 2 15-minute slots weekly. You can find those on my website. I'm also really active on social media. Instagram, I'm at Real Allan Draper. But yeah, kind of easy to find out there right now.
Cool, man. All right, I'll link those in the description. So anyone that wants to check out his website, I'll link, your LinkedIn, any other platforms that you're kind of active on. So yeah, I'll link those in the description. And yeah, again, it was so great talking to you.
Thanks, Danny. Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. All right. Have a great rest of your day.